to another episode of our C4L production. Welcome to Bullseye, where you get all the latest news, all the latest podcasts, all the latest information on what's going on in the world of USF athletics. We are so very, very happy to have you joining us this evening on our Bullseye platform. Hopefully we'll have people sharing this in 1 minute with you all. And before I bring on my co-host with you, who hopefully could give us a little bit more information, I want to do some breaking news that has just come down a little bit earlier today in regards to Notre Dame athletics. If you haven't heard that there was 7 of 94 tests done after the football game with USF this weekend that came back positive on the players. So they are canceling their game versus Wake Forest. That's Notre Dame is canceling their game versus Wake Forest on this Saturday. As far as USF goes, we did find out that they did test the players the Friday before the game, and of course they did test the players the Monday after, and we have all of the tests were positive. None of them came back with bad results. So let's go in and bring in my good buddy, my co-host, Bradley Lewis Walker, who's with us every Tuesday night on Bullseye. Bradley, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Larry. It wasn't very good for our Bulls on Saturday, but I'm doing good.
And we're going to get into that in a minute, but I'm sure you heard the news that had come down a little while ago. Have we heard any latest, or are you hearing the same thing that I'm hearing, that as of now there have been no positive tests for any Bulls players in regards to the situation going on with Notre Dame?
Yeah, Larry, I haven't heard anything. I follow Joey Knight, who's a writer for the Tampa Bay Times, on Twitter. I haven't seen anything pop up for USF. I was actually shocked to see that Notre Dame had positive tests and that their game was being postponed this Saturday against Wake Forest.
Yeah, and as we talk about this game, and it's not anything that we love to talk about. We went into this series, and you and I talked last on Tuesday night, and we talked about the positive impact that this could have on our program. Should we go into South Bend? Should we go into Indiana? And should we win this game? Well, we go in, but unfortunately, the complete opposite happens. We get demolished, we get destroyed, we get obliterated, whatever word you want to use, in a 52-0 rout. Now, in the situation, the coaching staff with Jeff Scott, we talked about the positive impact it could have. What kind of negative impact do you feel, if any, this might have when they go up against Florida Atlantic this weekend?
Well, I mean, I listened to Coach Scott on 620 WDAE locally with the Ronnie and T-Crash show in the morning on Monday. And the one word that he used was, can they rebound after this? Because, again, yeah, we sat here and talked last week about how great it would be if this team would have won. I really, in all honesty, didn't believe they would go and lay an egg like they did. They looked totally unprepared, and I'm hoping, Larry, they can bounce back this week. I mean, we'll have to see. We're going up against Willie Taggart, our former head coach, and we'll have to wait and see how that all goes down on Saturday night.
Yeah, now, one of the things that we did, once again, this is nothing new to us. When you watch this game, and there's not many what we call highlights from this game, but I'm trying to look at stuff. And the one thing, again, and you and I both hit on this last week, is USF, and I was listening to Jeff Scott a little bit talk about, the post-game press conference, and he talks about he believes this team can be very explosive passing the ball. Yet, we watched the game Saturday, and we continue to be a one-dimensional team where the boards, it's hand the ball to Johnny Ford and see what he can do. And I believe Johnny had one decent run maybe, but, if that's the case, what Jeff Scott is saying, he sure didn't indicate that with what he's shown on the field on Saturday.
Yeah, Larry, I agree. I mean, I also happened to hear him say that they still haven't found a starting quarterback yet either. So how are you going to shirk the passing game when you don't even have a starting quarterback? Is it going to be McLeod? Is it going to be Johnson? Is it going to be the other kid that they've been throwing in there? And then he even brought up the fact that there's a transfer that will be eligible to play this week. So now there's a fourth quarterback. So until we can get a starting quarterback, the passing game is going to be a mess. And we have to throw the ball. Like I said, we talked about this last week that, look at the Bucs last year. They couldn't run the ball. And they were one-dimensional. Look what happened. They got beat. And the USF was one-dimensional on Saturday against Notre Dame. They had a couple good runs, but Notre Dame was ready. I mean, they were running us over offensively, defensively. They were, it was not pretty at all.
And, it wasn't pretty at all is exactly the great way to go ahead and describe it. But, when you look at certain things, by the way, for all of you fans that are on our Bullseye platform, that's where it's being shown today. I know I haven't had a chance to share it to anyone else. I know we have people helping share it. Please do us a favor. Both Bradley and I a favor. And if you could take one moment, it takes a second to do. Share this to your timeline. Share with your friends. We have an unbelievable show planned for you. We're about 5 minutes away from having Matt Grothe, the former legendary quarterback. I know Bradley's excited to talk to him, as am I, and we got a lot of good questions for him. So please take a moment and share this to your timeline. Now, going back about the quarterback situation, Bradley, I agree with you 100%, and it kind of concerns me when a coach comes in and says, we still have yet to determine who our quarterback is. Wouldn't you agree with me? And tell me if I'm wrong, but at this stage of what's going on, we're in game number 3. By now, you got to let your team know who's the captain of this offense, don't you?
Yeah, Larry. Yeah, absolutely. I don't understand why he hasn't come to a decision yet. I don't know. If you want to stick with Jordan, I saw Jordan last year, filling in last year. So if that's the guy, that's the guy. If Noah Johnson's your guy, that's the guy. And I think the other quarterback is the one that has the strongest arm of the three of them. If you want to go passing, then put him in the game. But, yeah, you're exactly right. You've got to have a captain. You got to have someone who they know is going to be the quarterback. And then, of course, you have your running game set up. So we need to get the passing game set up and get the offense going in one motion instead of worrying about, McLeod's in. Okay, he's going to run. We're going to put Johnson. He's going to run. The other kid's going to come in. He's going to pass. We got to get one quarterback in there and stick with that guy for the rest of the season moving forward.
And you know what I see? And tell me if you see, when we do, and it isn't much that we do or far that we do, but when we do throw the football, it doesn't look like we have any trouble doing so. It doesn't look like we're struggling when we're doing it. It looks like it's just the conservative type of play calling that we're using.
Yeah, you're right, Larry. I mean, we're not struggling to get yards after the catch or anything like that. Our receivers are open. It's just that we're not making big plays offensively. I mean, we got Randall St. Felix, who's one of the best wide receivers at USF, and he hasn't been doing very well this year. Like I said, if you depend so much on the run, you're going to get burned. And again, we got to get this passing game going against FAU this weekend.
Yeah, and when we look at this game, we like I said, we try to take some positives out of it. I guess the positive is maybe they only scored 52 points. I'm not sure, but when you look at this game right from the get-go, I mean, it was, they came right down the field, boom, and you can just see like the air basically coming out of the sails. I mean, we knew we were going to be overmatched. You and I talked about that. We knew that. But did you expect it to be this overmatched?
Well, no, I didn't, Larry. And like I said, we started off the game with a personal foul penalty on the opening kickoff, and now you're giving Ian Book even 15 yards closer. again, as I wrote in my article, which I believe will be up right now, was supposed to be up the other day. I wrote about how last year for Wisconsin, this was the exact same thing. Wisconsin came out right off the opening kickoff. They punched us in the mouth, and USF never responded. That's exactly what happened today. Or I'm sorry, not today, but on Saturday against Notre Dame. The exact same thing where we got punched in the mouth right off the beginning. They drove down and ran us over, and next thing you know, it was 14-0 really quickly in the first quarter.
And, and I'm still back on this topic, and I'm so sorry, but it just irks me a little bit. The quarterback situation, like you mentioned about, Jeff Scott not knowing who the quarterback is, wouldn't you have a great opportunity in a 52-0 blowout to really get a look at your quarterbacks, all three of them consistently? I mean, it's not like everybody played a bunch. It was mostly McLeod. Then you had Noah Johnson in on a couple of plays, and then you had, Travis Marsh. So you got to know. I mean, by now, after this game, you have to know it, like you said. And it just amazes me. I don't see how we can get any consistency with the way we play the game if we don't, at least identify a starting quarterback.
Yeah, no, Larry, I agree. I mean, I'm looking at, we got season stats. We get season stats sent to us after every game, and now that we have 2 games in, so far this season, McLeod is 11 for 16. He's got a 68% completion percentage. But then you look and you got Brandon Fry, who's 8 for 14. DeQuell Evans is 4 for 12. Kayshawn Marsh is 4 for 8. Noah Johnson's 3 for 4. So, that there's too many variables there. It should not be that way. Jeff Scott's got to come up with something. And here's the thing, Larry. If we're still harping about this next Tuesday, whether we win or not on Saturday, and we're still harping about this, then it's going to be bad news if we can't get a starting quarterback by after week 3.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. We're just moments away from having Matt Grothe on with us. And what we'll do is after the interview with Matt, we're going to go ahead, Bradley and I, and we're going to talk about next week's game versus Florida Atlantic. But let's go ahead and do this right now. It is my great honor, thrill, and most of all, a pleasure to introduce to you on our Bullseye Beef O'Brady's hotline. Please welcome in former legendary quarterback of the USF Bulls, Matt Grothe. Matt, we're bringing you up right now. In about 3 seconds, you should come on here. There he is. How you doing, buddy?
Man, how you guys?
Can you hear me, Matt?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit there. We're going to try to get you in there. But as long as you can hear us and we can hear you, we're doing good. How you doing tonight,
Okay,
sir?
Cool. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me, Matt?
Here, I'm going to try to see if this helps.
All right, we'll give him a second to get on with us.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Matt. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I just lost. I don't know what happened, but I can hear you. As long as you can hear me, that's good.
All right. Yep. Hey, I think you put it on audio, which is fine. Is probably the smart thing to do since we don't have a picture of you. But as long as you can hear us, first of all, both Bradley and I want to welcome you to the new Bullseye. We're very, very happy to have you on this evening.
I appreciate you having me.
Matt, the first thing I want to do is I want to go back in time. We're going to go back in a little time. The year is 2005, and you are a red-shirted freshman. Let me ask you this. In 2005, and I always ask people that get a year of sitting before they play, how much did sitting on the sidelines and getting to observe another quarterback help you for when you finally had the opportunity?
A lot, especially now that I can look back on it. A lot of kids, when they come out of high school, they want to try to come in and play right away. But I can tell you right now, just from personal experience and seeing it from multiple kids, that when you have that extra year to sit there and learn from not just other players, but even other positions, defensive guys that you see that are older, offensive guys that are leaders on the team, you got that full extra year of learning the system and the offense. You just are that much more prepared that following season when you get to go into your redshirt freshman year.
Now, 2005 ends, 2006 comes, and you finally get the opportunity to go ahead and, the first game you start. You start the first game. I mean, you have an unbelievable year. You get Big East Rookie of the Year. I mean, you upset number 7 West Virginia. I believe that was on the road. And you guys actually make your first ever bowl appearance that year. I mean, how big was it for you to be named that starter and for you to be, in your mind, which of course is everybody's mind on that team, the captain of that team?
It's big, and I think a lot of things that probably only people that have been in that position before will understand. But I think college football, one of the biggest things for especially young kids to have is to have a good start. Fortunately for my start, I was able to have a really good opening drive when we went down the field and scored a touchdown, and it just helped with your psyche and your mental game more than even your physical game. And I've seen over the years a lot of big name quarterbacks come out and they have that first game or two where they just struggle, and you never seem to put it all together because they're still young kids. I mean, when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, you're still learning life and everything. And I think having a good start and having a good coaching system around you where they allow you to have a good start to your college career is big for young kids.
Now, let me ask you this. 2007, you already know you're the starter. And I always wonder, because when you look back at 2007 year, you come off 2006, all the expectations are high, not only from the fan base at USF or everyone else, but when you come on, you realize all of a sudden now you're on everybody's watch list, this watch list and that watch list and so on and so on. I believe it was the Maxwell Award watch list, the Manning Award watch list. I mean, how much extra pressure, if any, did you feel going into that second year on the field?
I knew we were expected to have a big year, but I've always kind of been grown up to where you gotta be able to put everything that happens, good or bad, in your life in the past right away, and even games where I've played horrible, we halftime and I've been playing bad or whatever, and I've been able to come out and completely forget about it. So I mean, going in 7 was definitely a big year, and we had a lot of expectations, but at the same time, we were just wanting to compete one game at a time and take it from there.
Yeah, and compete is something you guys definitely did. I know, you get a 9-4 record. Includes a 26-3 victory. I remember over Auburn, and I believe that was on your 23rd birthday. I'm sorry, your 21st birthday, if I'm correct. And then you get a 21-13 victory over West Virginia. You end up with a number 2 ranking at one time throughout the year. You end up, 21st in the nation. I mean, tell us about the excitement, because here is a college, as you know, USF, you're a local kid, you're from Lake Gibson in Lakeland. I mean, this school has never had the privilege of going through a success like they were going through. Tell me what it was like around, just in general, the fan base and all the excitement building around the program.
It was crazy. It took me years after I graduated for me to realize how, crazy 07 was, and especially that West Virginia game at home. That was probably the loudest stadium I've ever been in my life. Especially when Ben Moffitt returned the interception for a touchdown to start us off with 7 points, and it was just it was crazy. It was definitely a good time and a good year. Auburn was awesome. Obviously, it was my 21st birthday, so that was one good 21st birthday. But yeah, I mean, it took me a long time to realize how special that was, and especially how young of a program we were. We hadn't even been around for 20 years yet at that time. Hell, just over 10 years at that time. And to jump into that quickly was something that, I don't think anybody on that team expected.
Yeah, I don't think we were pleasantly, and I say that very well because I was living down here, like I said then, and it was an unbelievable surprise. And you talk about, the following year, you say, how can you get any better than you're getting? And then you did career highs in touchdown passes with 18. You had passing yards close to 3,000. Completions 240. You're averaging about 223 yards per game. You led the team in rushing with 591 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. I mean, you got to be going into the following, after that season saying, the future looks pretty darn bright for you, didn't it?
Yeah, and especially 2009, going into my senior year, I thought we had a really good chance. I thought that team could have been the most special team that I was part of. There was a lot of guys that were graduating that year, and especially on the offensive side of the ball, and we had a really good offseason. And just going into my senior year, I thought that could have been a special year. And then obviously getting hurt in the third game, kind of set that back for me. But we actually ended up still, as a whole team, that year finishing really well.
So let me ask you this. Obviously 2009, all of us USF fans remember that. Right before halftime, you're playing Charleston Southern, and you go down with an apparent knee injury that ends up not being apparent, ends up being a torn ACL. I mean, obviously you were upset, I'm sure, but tell us what was going through your mind after you found out that you had torn your ACL.
It's kind of funny. Not a whole lot of people know. I was actually more upset with myself than anything. I want to say there was like 9 or 10 minutes left in the second quarter, and we were already up 28-0. And we had Florida State the following week. And Coach Levitt had walked up to me before that next drive and was like, "Hey, you're done until next week." And then I got on the headset with my offense coordinator at the time, Mike Canales. I was like, "Coach, I want one more series. I think I just need one more series before we have this long week of getting ready for Florida State." And it was actually the very next play that I did it. And I think about that more than I do the whole knee injury thing, because it's crazy how just one play could take it all away from you.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you know what? If you think back, for those of you, the fans out there, I believe that was 11 years ago yesterday, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I think yes. Was
The
that
21st.
21st? Yeah, yeah. It was 11 years ago
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah, so I mean, and I was going to ask you the question, and you already answered, but you're playing a team, and I was going to say, well, why didn't the coaches take you out of the game? But you just answered that question because you were up 28-0, like you said, going into a week with Florida State, and you just answered that question. So thank you very much for that. So let me ask you this. The next year you're not drafted, obviously. Do you think that the injury to your knee, Matt, kept you from being drafted in a late round, or did you feel like you were probably going to be a free agent?
I mean, it's hard to say, especially, it all depends on how I would have played my senior year and obviously if I would have stayed healthy, if we would have done some things that year and, won 10, 11 games, you never know what's going to happen. But I mean, at the end of the day, when I got a chance to go to the Bucks and training camp for a couple of weeks, I thought to myself that I was ready to go and then I could compete and be just like I was. But and I ended up finding out over the next few months that my knee was still definitely getting better each day. But you just want to compete, especially you want to get a shot, a chance, and I did, and obviously it didn't work out. But it was definitely a fun ride, and I wouldn't take anything back. So
Now, you did get to play a couple games, if I'm correct, in the Arena Football League. Am I correct?
yeah, I actually went up to Canada for a year, and
Right.
played up there, and then came down and was with the Storm. Came back from Canada, and there was only like 3 games left in the Arena season, and I got picked up by the Storm, and I ended up getting to start the last game of the year. I thought I was going to have a good shot of playing that the following year. Ended up going to Orlando Predators and playing over there, and then the following year, basically the Arena football just kind of disappeared.
Right. Now, didn't you, in your first appearance, if I'm correct, get to play with former teammate Amari Jackson?
Yep. Actually, yeah, that was the second to last game of the year. He came in at halftime and played the rest of the game, and we actually came back and won that game. And that was kind of my here we go. Maybe I can still do this game. And actually, yeah, I think I threw 2 or 3 touchdowns on Amari that second half, and
Yep.
it was nice to have him as a weapon for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing when you look at your game and a half worth of statistics for the Storm. You were 38 of 67, 440 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. The first 3, I mean, in that first half, you threw 3 touchdowns to your former USF buddy, Amari Jackson. So, I could see why you would still be confident, why you can play. The one that I want to ask you, back then, USF, and for those of you listening, we're talking to Matt Groth, former quarterback of the USF Bulls. Matt, back then, USF, and they still do today, they play people. And what I mean by that is they don't shy away from playing these big schools and saying, like, and I don't mean to bring up UCF or anything like that, but, the crosstown rival has this thing where they should be in every single year, they should be in the playoffs because they, go undefeated. Yet they don't play anyone like, USF just played Notre Dame. We won't talk about that. But, they also next year play Florida. They play Alabama. I mean, talk about the strength of schedule and why it's so important for a team like USF, even back then, to play these big-name schools.
And I think it's huge for our future purposes too. You know, 'cause I still have a feeling one of these days, probably when TV contracts or big network contracts end, that they'll possibly go to just a big four conferences, super teams, 16 teams, and having those games, those big games, Alabama, Florida, Clemson's, it's big for the future purposes, just so we can have an opportunity to shine in the spotlight against teams that have been around forever. And I still think at the end of the day, us and UCF will be a package deal somewhere down the road eventually. But I think it'll happen, and having those big games is only going to help.
Bradley Lewis, Walker, and myself, before you came on, we were talking about the impact that a USF, a game like, let's say, versus Notre Dame could have on the program should they be successful, go in there and upset them. Do you think in any way, shape, or form it could have a negative effect when they go in and they just get swept off their feet like they did this past weekend?
Yeah, I guess more than a little. I was very disappointed this past weekend. I mean, there was some things to take out of it. Obviously it's been a crazy off season for everybody. We're really young on certain key positions on both sides of the ball, but it was just, I don't know. It didn't seem like we were ever going to have a chance to be anywhere in that from start to finish, and it was definitely disappointing because I think that was the worst loss in USF history, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was.
So, I mean, at least we got that out of the way. So hopefully, this weekend, I mean, there's obviously people from my generation of playing know how big this game is this weekend for coaching reasons. So, going against FAU. So it'll be it'll definitely be interesting this weekend to see two ex-coaches on the other side of the field.
Absolutely, and Jim Levitt and Willie Taggart. And before, I know Bradley's going to want to ask you, I'm sure he has a couple questions, but before I let him get in here and ask you a couple quick questions, and you are a quarterback, so you're the perfect guy to ask this question. We're going through what we call, I guess the right word would be carousel of quarterbacks in the first couple of games. They're using McLeod, they're using Johnson, and they, using also Marsh. And we're in game 3 now. We're going up against Florida Atlantic this week. Am I wrong by saying at this time in the season that we should have already identified a starting quarterback, not just for identity purposes, but just for the team to know, who their starting quarterback is?
No, I completely agree with you there. Obviously, I don't know how it in the locker room, if they had a guy that they were going to want to play going into this Notre Dame game, and obviously things got out of hand pretty quick. So maybe that's why we bounced around with a couple different guys. But yeah, I think it's better for the whole team's sake and for the psyche of a quarterback to get a guy and go with them. Obviously we just had a big loss, and you want to try to get back on the right track. But if you have a young guy that that this could be our guy for the next 2-3 years, get him in and let him play. Let him get his goods and his bads out of the way, and figure it out, because that's the only way you're going to get any better. I mean, you can only practice so much and do so much in practice, but when you put those pads on and it's go time in an actual game, it's a lot different than being on a practice field and having those reps, a whole game worth of reps is huge for anybody trying to play college football.
Right. We're going to let Bradley Lewis go ahead and hop in here, ask you a couple questions.
Hey, Matt, big
Cool.
fan. When you were here at USF, I got a couple questions. What was it like playing under Jim Levitt?
I love Jim. I still talk to Jim every now and again. He's definitely a different guy. He's one of a kind. I think over the years, just seeing him bounce around from team to team and being where he's been, I think he's changed a little bit with his coaching styles or whatnot. But he was definitely a big influence, not only on myself in college, but on our team as a whole. Because whether we were doing really well or doing really bad, he was always would stay in the middle ground and not blow you up and make you feel like you're better than you are. And at the same time, when we were not doing so well, he would, try to build your self-esteem and have you play better. And I thought that was one of his best qualities.
And thanks. Yeah, I agree. I've done a little history on Coach Levitt, so that was cool. Let me ask you another thing. What was it like playing against UCF? Did you guys get a little extra route up playing the rival in Orlando? Was that a game that you guys circled on your calendar in the beginning of the season?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was always we had our 3 weeks of hell before the season started, and we would have camp for 6 a.m. to 11 o'clock at night. We had like 10 goals for the season. Obviously, number one being win every game, or win your first game, and then win the Big East and goal that. But UCF was always one of those goals. Win the rivalry with UCF. And obviously, I don't know if you guys know, but I've had some. I cannot stand UCF, so that's just there's personal things that they've done to me over the years, and it's funny because they continue to do it to me, and I'm like, it's 11 years later, guys, leave me alone. But there's a lot of back and forth, and obviously they've been doing well lately, and it would definitely be nice to, if we could, get a team with Coach Scott, and be able to compete over the next few years.
I agree. I can't stand UCF either, so I'm right there with you. One last question. This is a high school question. I noted that you played Armwood in your state championship your senior year. How was it like playing a powerhouse like Armwood, that a powerhouse in the state of Florida? How was that like to get ready for them in the state championship game?
I had a lot of. That's funny you said that, because I was just with a bunch of my old offensive linemen this weekend, and my old center Jake Griffin played on Armwood that year. They beat us, so he always likes to give me slack about them beating us in the state championship. But no, actually, we played Armwood 3 times. My sophomore year in high school, we played them in the second or third round of the playoffs, and we beat them. And then ended up losing the following week to Jefferson when they had God, what was his name? The quarterback that ended up going to Florida and playing receiver. But anyways, and then my junior year we went up to Pensacola and beat Pensacola to go to the state championship, and then played Armwood my junior year as well in the state championship. Got beat by a touchdown, and then it was kind of I don't know if it was destiny or whatnot, but the following year we ended up playing them again in the state championship and having an opportunity to have another run at it. And obviously it didn't work out. So, but no, they are definitely a powerhouse, and they still are. And it's crazy to see how, when you get those few wins in high school, especially in the state of Florida, if you can win a couple championships in a few year span, it seems like those teams stick around. I mean, look at Plant, for example. Plant came out of nowhere, 10 years ago, and they've been winning championships like left and right. Armwood's been around forever. You got like Booker T. Washington down south that always seems to be in that talk too. So, and it helps too with state of Florida. State of Florida, in my opinion, is the number one state in the country for high school athletes, especially playing football. So, There's a lot of big names that come out of here, and a lot of big names that end up playing long NFL careers. So.
Now, Matt, before we let you go, I got a question from you. You can help some youngsters out. I mean, you transitioned from Lake Gibson High School, obviously, to USF. If you have to give any advice to a young kid coming out of high school, how to handle the magnification of college, and because everybody goes from high school, you're a great player, and everybody in high school loves you, you're a stud, this and that. Then you go to college and you find out there's a lot more studs than just you out there. If you had to give advice to any young kids on how to maybe help them transition through the stress of it all, what would you tell them?
Have fun. Probably the biggest thing. Have fun doing it, because I mean, there's a lot of people in this world that would love to be in your shoes. Have fun. Don't beat yourself up, because I know there was definitely times my freshman year, not only myself but seeing other guys, you kind of feel lost at times. You're coming into something new, you're not able to play right away, and just have fun. Don't beat yourself up, and stay as mentally strong as you can. I think that has more to do with football than your talents on the field. I mean, if you take a look at some of these, especially quarterbacks in the NFL, Brady, when he came out, you got Drew Brees and Brady are probably number one and number two right now that everybody talks about over the past 20 years. Brees isn't even 6 feet tall, and Brady came out as a little skinny, torpy kid, and they just have a good head on their shoulder, and they were able to take that and grow from it. So just know to have fun and stay mentally there. Don't ever let yourself get drained from the game.
Well, listen, Matt, first of all, I know Bradley and myself, we want to thank you so very, very much for giving us the opportunity to have you guest on our new show, Bullseye. I mean, we really, really enjoyed it. And if there's anything you ever need, we're here from you.
Absolutely.
All right. You have a good night, my friend.
I lost your sound.
Up. Can you hear me now?
I don't hear you. I can see you, but I can't hear you.
You can see me now. All right, Bradley, why don't you see if he can hear you, maybe?
Matt, can you hear me?
No, I can't hear either, y'all.
Said he can't hear either one of us.
All right, well, I'm going to just wave goodbye anyway. And thank you so much for coming on, my friend.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, that was the great Matt Grothe, former quarterback of USF, and what a great guy. Matt was terrific. I mean, Bradley, what was your thoughts? I mean, we got to talk to him. I mean, first time, we really heard about Matt since, basically his career ended. Great guy, wasn't he?
Absolutely, Larry. Yeah, that was a great interview. That's pretty cool that we get an interview a former quarterback. That was awesome.
Yeah. And you know what? He's a great guy. When I worked in Lakeland for 15 years, his dad's a great guy. His wife, I know they got a baby girl now. Just great family, great people. So very, very, happy to be able to get somebody, not just a great athlete on the field, but just a great person off the field. So very, very happy to have him on. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you before the show starts that Bradley and I, we're going to talk about the game coming up this weekend. I'm going to try to get this little thing off the thing that says Matt's on the phone here for a minute because he's not on the phone anymore. So let's get that off there. But, we're playing Florida Atlantic University. I just got a message. Is the game still going on? Yes, the game is going on. I know some people are concerned Bradley and I talked about it earlier in the broadcast that something like 9 out of 90. Let's see. Here it is. 7 out of 94 people contracted. I guess that means you were positive for. I always get that confused. Positive for coronavirus. So the game, Notre Dame's game, is canceled versus Wake Forest. But as far as the USF Bulls go, they were tested the Friday before the game, the Monday after the game, and nobody did test positive. Great news for the USF Bulls, and they will be taking on, which is more important than anything, and then they will be taking on the FAU Owls. And I want to talk about FAU. You know, it's a non-conference game. Before we get into the coaching matchups, Brad, if you haven't seen the line yet, and I'm not really one, even though I look at the line more out of curiosity than I do anything else. But if you look at the line here, FAU is actually favored by 3 points in this game. Are you surprised that FAU is favored in this game?
I'm going to say no, Larry, because of what happened last week. I think some of the guys that set the lines in Vegas, they watched the game. Maybe they're not predicting that USF will bounce back, and stuff like that. I mean, FAU, this is not Notre Dame, guys. This is going to be, I mean, again, I'm not trying to, pull them down to the Citadel's level, but this is not one of those games that, we going into are going to have, a thing. I mean, I was just looking, actually, Larry, real quick. It looks like 2 days ago that it looks like FAU moved up to a 5.5-point favorite. So the over-under is 50 in the game. So they've all gone up since then. But, like I said, I got to listen to Jeff Scott yesterday on the radio. I really don't think that it's going to be a repeat of what we saw last week. I think the game will be a little bit more in our favor. I think it's going to be closer than a lot of people predict because we are playing against Willie Taggart, and Jim Leavitt is on that staff, which myself did not even know that until Matt mentioned that on the phone. I did not know that Jim Leavitt was on Willie Taggart's staff. So it's going to be interesting to be playing against two former head coaches, here. But I have a good feeling, Larry, that Jeff Scott's going to have this team motivated and ready to go this week. And maybe we'll see that huge running attack from Ford and Joyner. Maybe they'll be able to spread it out a little bit more and gain a lot more yards than they did last week against Notre Dame.
And, you talk about FAU. A lot of people may not realize this, but FAU has yet to play a game this year. Their game was canceled last week, and I believe it was Georgia Southern that they were supposed to play. So, you and I talk, and we'll look at it, 8 quarters of football in the books for the USF Bulls. You would think from a continuity standpoint and feeling comfortable that would be in USF's favor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've already played 2 games. They're playing their first game. Again, just like Matt just said, it's been a crazy off season. Again, there was no spring game. I mean, I was lucky enough last year to be able to attend the spring game and be on the sideline in Charlie Strong's last year. And I will say this: if you ever get a chance to get a press pass for a spring game, it's absolutely awesome because you can walk up and down the sidelines and see the coaches and all that stuff. But yeah, I think it's in our favor, Larry, that we've played 2 games and they're playing their first game. I think we're going to show dominance, to be honest with you, because of the experience you've already had with a win over the Citadel, and then, of course, that painful loss last Saturday.
Yeah, and, we talked a little bit a couple seconds ago. You brought up the point that, and I'm trying to get this all situated here for us with my handy-dandy, I'm trying to be a producer here. But there he is. There's a picture of your boy right there. Jim Leavitt, and I got another one for you if I can get this going here. There we go. Let me take down the University of South Florida. We can only fit so much here. So let me find that. All right, we take that down. Let's see if There we go. And then let's go back this way a minute. All right, here we go, buddy. You're going to be proud of me. There we go. There's your boys. And you know what? You look at the, and I knew this. I had this prepared for you, but Matt kind of broke it to you earlier than I could. You know, we got two coaches. One that, you know, right with us, one that is known a little bit better. Both big names. Jim Leverett is now the defensive coach for FAU under Willie Taggart. When, you know, I would think for Jeff Scott, it doesn't mean much. You know, he wasn't around when all this stuff happened. But from, like Matt said, from the University of South Florida's standpoint, it's a big game going back for us two coaches that used to be at the head of the helm there.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more, Larry. This is one of those, you know, like if you're a former coach, you know, you look in the NFL, how many times the disciples of Bill Belichick want to beat him, and most of them actually have. So again, this would be, again, I'm not, Jeff Scott's not a disciple of either one of these coaches, but I think, you know, you're exactly right. I think Jeff Scott would love to, you know, walk across the field at the end of the game and shake this guy, you know, Willie Taggart's hand and go, "Yep, I beat you today there, former Bucko. I beat you today." And then shake Jim Hudson. "Yep, see, I beat you today too." So it will be cool on Saturday to see what happens.
Now, a little bit of other information that, and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but Willie Taggart's son is on the quarterback list at FAU. He is one of the quarterbacks. He is not the starting quarterback, but he is a quarterback. So pretty interesting there. You talk about all this stuff, and you even then have father and son there as well. So, you know, a lot going on. But let's talk about FAU a little bit. They got Nick Tronte. Nick, if you don't know a lot about Nick is one of those dual type, double dimension type quarterbacks. He can run the ball. He can pass the ball. I mean, our defense, and you know, our defense last game, I know Nick Roberts seemed to be all over the field. He had 6 tackles, 3 assists. Let's not forget KJ. You know, he's out there as well, Sales. I mean, what do we got to do to stop a dual dimension quarterback?
Well, you know, Larry, to be honest with you, we played one in week 1. The Citadel ran an option style offense. And we, you know, if you guys remember that game back in week 1, you know, the first couple, I think we discussed it last week, the first couple series, you know, the Citadel got down the field, the defense adjusted. I think that same game plan will go into what they're going to be facing this Saturday. And I think that the defensive staff will be ready. KJ Sales is the leader. That's the captain of that defense. Mike Hampton is another guy that you can pencil in there. Nick Roberts, you mentioned him as well. So, you know, it's going to be one of those things where, you know, it might take a couple of series for them to adjust, but I can see the same adjustment that I saw in person against the Citadel and them adjusting, keeping, again, just like we mentioned last week, the one thing you have to do is keep the big plays at par. We didn't do that last week against Notre Dame. They had way too many big plays. If we can keep FAU minimalized with big plays, I think we come out with the W on Saturday night.
And like you said, those 4 guys, you know, defensively, we got those, you know, 4 starters that in the secondary that are returning. You mentioned Hampton and Sales and Roberts, and also Bentley Sanders, let's not forget, is out there as well. My question to you is this. If you have a dual style running back like Tronte is, wouldn't it be more effective if we can come out in that game and really handle the rush, our defense handle the running game, and possibly force them to pass the ball more? Would that be more beneficial for us?
Absolutely, Larry. I mean, yes, absolutely. If you can take a team that depends mostly on the run offensively, and you can shut that down and make them run. I can give you a plain example. My first year covering USF, Georgia Tech runs a triple style offense, and for some off the wall reason, in the first quarter, first half, we were able to slow that down, making them throw the ball. And their quarterback was not very good throwing the football. So if this guy's a dual threat guy, and we could take one of those, aspects away from him, I think you're going to see a lot of blitzing. I think they're going to blitz a little bit, get this guy back on his heels. But then again, if you blitz and you miss, he's going to make you pay, and that's the thing we have to worry about this week. Is if we miss, he's going to make you pay, and that's something we have to avoid.
Yeah, and you know what? One of the things about, and it could actually help us a little bit. People don't realize FAU has 3 transfer wide receivers on their team that transferred from last year. The first one is TJ Chase. He came over from Clemson, a very good receiver. You got Aaron Young out of Duke, and then you got Michael Irvin II out of Miami. But when you're in transfer, and I'm going to use professional sports again. You see the first couple of weeks about the chemistry with Tom Brady and his receivers. Not for any other reason that they're not good or anything, but having a little difficulty with the timing and with the routes and everything. Even with these 3 great transfer receivers they got, once again, that could play into our favor too, because they have not played a game this year. They haven't had any, they might have had some scrimmages, but you and I both know it's not the same thing. You're holding up, you're not hitting, you're not doing this. So there could be in that passing game, if they have to go to it, that could put that Owl team in some trouble where we might be able to maybe get a couple of turnovers that can help us score some points.
Yeah, Larry. Yeah, that you're absolutely right. Again, seeing you just mentioned, we're going back to the pros. You watched this past Sunday, Tom Brady finding Mike Evans and that touchdown. That was an amazing throw to Mike Evans, and Evans adjusted, and that timing was there and everything else. So, guys, if you don't realize, we should have asked Matt that question too. How important a quarterback to a receiver and the timing and everything, just because if the guy runs the wrong route and the quarterback thinks one way, you throw a pick. If we win the turnover battle like we did against the Citadel, we'll win this game. And again, that's the most important thing. If we can, again, with a dual threat, they have transfer wide receivers. So again, none of these guys that are used to this quarterback, that definitely could play in the favor. If we can win the turnover battle, it's a W for us.
Yeah, and one other thing is they got a very good runner as well in that backfield. We don't want to forget him. Is Malcolm Davis. I believe he's a junior this year. Now, he rushed for 700 yards last year, but the statistic that sticks out when you look at Malcolm Davidson is, and you're hearing me correctly, Bradley, he averaged 7.0 yards per carry. That's just unbelievable. And like you said, it's going to come down to, can our defense contain that running game, not just with the quarterback, but also with Malcolm Davidson, because like you said, if we can stop that running game, you take the second dimension of that two-dimensional offense out of the picture, and now it becomes a passing game. Not only that, like you said, if you can win the turnover battle, especially early, and maybe score first and add a little pressure on FAU, you're going to cause them to make some adjustments they might not have been planning to make at first, which could help us out as well.
Yeah, well, like, I didn't know he averaged 7 yards a carry. Holy crap. They almost get a first down every time he touches the ball. That's severe. That's not a good stat if you're cheering for our defense this week. But yeah, again,
I don't know why they didn't give him the ball more.
Well, yeah, because like I said, maybe another thing too, Larry. Maybe if he gets open, maybe we can strip the ball from him. Sometimes when you take away the ball, you knock him back, maybe hit him hard. Let him get 10 yards and then smack him in the mouth a little bit. He won't go that way anymore. There might be that type of way we have not cause penalties, but hit him hard, tackle him hard. He may not go that way. and get that strip, get those fumbles. Let him put the ball on the ground and let us get the ball, and we'll take it the other direction.
All right, Bradley, the question everybody wants to know the answer to. Well, a couple days away, 3-4 days away. Prediction time. What do you think?
I believe, Larry, I'm not going to predict the score because last week, obviously, I predicted 23-20. It didn't turn out that we didn't score any points at all. I'm going to leave it at this. I can see USF bouncing back this week. Again, Matt mentioned we have a lot of young kids in premier positions. I like the running game. Again, I'm a huge Johnny Ford fan, have been for the last 2 seasons. I've got a chance to watch him. And Joyner's a good guy too. I think hopefully, I want to say because I've seen McLeod, maybe he'll be the starting quarterback, but I do like Johnson, and I do like Marsh is the guy that has the big arm that Jeff Scott's been ranting raving about. So hopefully after this week we have a quarterback starting. Our defense, I think, is going to have, they're going to have some trouble in the beginning of the game, but I could see them adjusting, and I could see the Bulls winning a very close game. It's not going to be a blowout, and it's going to be a very close game.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be a close game too, but I think that the Bulls can win by 7, and I'll tell you why. I don't know about this explosive passing game that we talked about earlier that Jeff Scott is talking about. I would love to see it, just like I think all of us fans for USF would love to see it. But I think Johnny Ford comes to play. Not that he hasn't came to play the first 2 games, but I think he rushes for 100 yards this week. I really do. I think that, if we can take that running game from Johnny Ford and start off running the ball, being consistent, getting yards, the running game will open up that passing game that everybody wants to see. Because anytime you're successful running, what happens is your second wave of defenders, your linebackers and your safeties, they seem to step up a step because they want to try to stop the run, which allows guys on the wideouts to get a step on the receivers. And then to your thing is, you're going to want that best passer, whoever the heck that might be, whoever Jeff Scott identifies, to be in that game at that time so they can have some pinpoint passing. And I don't think this game's going to be a 10-7 game or a 10-3 game. I'm thinking maybe 27-21, somewhere in that area. But I think the Bulls can definitely, come out and win this game. So that's my prediction. And one thing we'll post up for you fans that I did print for you. See how well it comes out up here. It's coming up right now. There it is. That is the remaining schedule. You'll see that it says at Cincinnati. And now this does not include the FAU game. So we still got a long season left. And that's the point I want to make. But you see a lot of away games on this schedule. We're at Cincinnati before coming home to, East Carolina. We got Temple, Tulsa, Memphis, which is an unbelievable program. One of the up-and-coming programs. They always seem to give USF, UCF trouble. They are a decent team, and I believe they are ranked. So they're ranked as well. Then you got Houston, Navy, and then everybody has it marked on that calendar, that UCF game, which is in Tampa. And I would guess there could be some fans at that game as well. Well, my friend, our time is up. Another great, great show. I want to thank, first of all, I know Bradley and I want to thank very much Matt Grothe for taking his time out of his busy schedule to join us this evening. For those of you people that are on here that were watching the show, I would definitely recommend go ahead, share it to your friends. Bradley and I have a platform where we just cater to USF. It's called Bullseye. For those of you fans that want to join, some of you are already on it. I know some of you, it was shared with as well. Go to Bullseye, and there's the spelling. It's all capital letters. You can become a member. You'll get to see every show every week. Share it with your friends. If you're enjoying this show that Bradley and I are doing, why not let other people enjoy it? Stop being selfish, okay? And do it. And next Tuesday, it's going to be a little different with Bradley and I, because Bradley and I are going to be doing a show after a victory. So we're looking forward to that. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very, very much for joining us tonight. And both Bradley and I will see you next week, same time, same place, on another episode of Bullseye.